Senator Ferdinand.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand with a smile on this motion, and I'm sure that my colleagues opposite will not be surprised at all that I'm very pleased to speak for a few moments on this motion. But while I smile at the idea of money being allocated or borrowed for the purpose of school repairs and housing, it doesn't mean that we do so without paying attention to everything that is important. So I just want to say first up that on this motion to borrow $4 million, well, it involves other sums, 42 million in total, but 4 million US of that amount going to school repairs and another 4 million for housing development. Of course, the balance for road repairs. I am very pleased that there is some semblance of attention that is going to be paid to addressing the concerns that my colleague, Senator, in his earlier contribution referred to. I will continue in this Honorable House to mention or to stand and to speak on the plight of schools for as long as I'm here. And every effort that is made to respond to that or to deal with any issues related to making our education system, our human resource capital better, will get my support. So this Honorable House has not heard the last of me when it comes to these issues. I applaud the efforts of the government to secure funds for school repairs. I say to them, or to the government, that we must also be mindful that when we make those efforts, that we give credit where it's due. And I'm happy that the leader of government business acknowledged the introduction of universal secondary education by the Labour Party government. And I suspect around that time he was very close and involved, so he couldn't have absolved himself from it. And also that the point about for the first time, I think we have to be very careful when we make those kinds of pronouncements as if certain things have happened for the very first time. That is not accurate, Madam President. And I'm referring to the issue, the point that was made that for the first time there is a systematic approach being taken by this government towards school repairs. That is very far from the truth. Madam President, I will inform this House that as a practitioner in the education system for over 25 years, especially running a school, being part of the administration of a school, there is a very well-established process through which government is first informed and is guided as to how to go about school repairs. It is well established. So my comrade, my honorable colleague can clarify in his rebuttal, but I want to remind this House that this process is very well established. First of all, in May of every year, there is what you call a staffing process where school principals, education officers, planning and corporate planning and other relevant departments of the Department of Education, they sit, they look at their plans for the new fiscal year. There are submissions made by the schools, including requests for repairs, minor repairs, and other needs. That is prioritized based on the situation at each school, and then in the budget, allocations are made. When these allocations are made, then there is a department in the ministry that is supervised by the Director of Works that allocates these funds to various education districts, and then the repairs are done according to the priority and the needs of schools. When we speak about the amounts to be borrowed, I am also saying that this is not the first time that we've seen governments, both governments, and I don't want to take credit and say that it's only the St. Lucia Labour Party, governments on both sides have made significant attempts. I know that several ministers of education in the past have always complained that there is not enough money being put forward. The teachers' unions have complained that they have issues with school security and safety and health safety concerns regarding workers. My school was one of them, and we have had issues where there have been sick outs because schools have not been, teachers and principals and so on have not been satisfied with conditions of work. So it is not a big thing for the first time, as we always want to make it look, but we must not underestimate the value of the effort. So while it's not an unprecedented thing, I must say that it's a good move. And I support the idea of spending money to repair our schools and bring them up to a standard where they are safe for the occupants, students, teachers, and other workers at the school. Madam President, the leader of government business did mention that, and when the independent senator asked the question, he did remind us that the repairs will be done to selected schools. My only concern is, how will the selection be done? I am hoping that there is a process to be followed, which I just briefly outlined, and that is the process that will be used to determine which schools get priority. Obviously, we can see that we can't repair all 100+ schools in the island, and we must give priority to some. But on what basis are the schools going to get priority? That is important, and I hope it is in consultation with the technocrats at the ministry and the principals and persons who will inform. I can point out a few examples of schools that, from my own knowledge, have had issues for a while, and I've mentioned them before. This is Arthur Lewis Community College. We have 2 departments now being housed, one at the George Schall Secondary, and now one at Monroe College. I think they've been moved to Monroe College. It's obvious that there are issues with the plant, and the staff and students have complained. We also know that from 2016, the Miku Secondary School, where I worked for 12 years, an entire block was virtually shut down. The Form 3 block on the western wing, it was in the news that the principal and the staff had staged some protest action because of the condition of that block. What happened? The block was demolished, and up to this day, we have grass growing there. Nothing has been erected, no structure. The Minister for Education indicated that she was going to try to, in her own words, scrape up some funds. It's been 2 years. So now that we have come to the House to authorize borrowing, I am hopeful that by the middle of next year, that I will not have to be speaking about that specific issue. We also know that even in the Prime Minister's constituency, it's quite a shame that we have schools like the Tiroche Combined School and the Angers Secondary School with major electrical problems. And as I mentioned, the Prime Minister himself admitted that there was a report of a fire at the Tiroche School and the classroom had to be shut down. These are urgent needs that need to be attended to. So that is why I am saying that I hope that in terms of the selected schools, that the priorities be given to schools not based on which individual is the district rep, or not based on which constituency the school comes from, but on the needs that have been articulated through the process involving principals and involving the stakeholders of the school to prioritize, so that the schools in with more critical needs are attended to first. Finally, Madam President, I just also want to mention that we have a case where the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, the alma mater for quite a few of us in here, there was some talk of the school being earmarked for demolition or relocation or something like that. I am hoping that instead of doing that, I know this government seems to have a liking for demolishing and rebuilding. I don't know what it is about that. But instead of that type of talk, that we're going to be seeing some effort towards alleviating some of the structural and repair needs of that specific school, instead of hearing people talking about relocating it and demolishing it. I know the CCSS Alumni Association has made their position very clear on that matter, and I hope that the government takes heed of the concerns of both present and past students of the school. Madam President, having said that, I again reiterate that I am very happy to hear that there will be some attention paid to school repairs. I want to ask that the government pays attention to the feedback that it's going to get, the feedback that it's going to receive from entities like the St. Lucia Teachers Union, the National Principals Association, because these groups, these organizations are directly impacted by issues regarding safety and security of schools and conditions of work. And I will not have to be the one in this honorable house to give any feedback. I think these entities will say how well these monies have been spent. From their feedback, we will know whether that $4 million has been well spent, I suppose, by the end of next year. So I wait for that response, and it will be clear for all of us to know. And I look forward to these concerns being addressed. There's also one more issue. The impact on the repairs of schools is not something that you can measure by just going and show and do any assessment. It is really by the response of the occupants of the schools that you know whether they are comfortable and whether they feel unsafe or whether they feel safe. So we wait for that, and I'm hoping that our schools will be properly prioritized based on an objective, fair process, that the monies allocated will be well spent, well managed, and that the relevant departments in the ministry that we don't seem to remember are given the opportunity to decide which schools get the attention in what priority, so that there is fairness and there is equity in the actual spending of these monies that we are borrowing. I thank you, Madam President.